If sovereignty lies with Parliament, then European Union referendum was advisory only. And very, very wisely indeed, very few people had the temerity to suggest that either before or since. But I want to go back to some of the documents that constitute the claim of right for Scotland, because by their determination to carry on going with the SNP bad hashtag, by turning it into an attack on the SNP, despite the fact that 1689 was an Act of Parliament that was a wee bit before the SNP had ever been thought of, the Better Together parties have missed the chance to celebrate a collection of documents that show the way forward for democracies even to this day. Well, as I just finished saying, one of the documents I'm talking about is the Claim of Right Act 1689. Guilty, the SNP did not sign up to that. We didn't vote for it. We didn't exist, neither did the Labour Party for that matter. But the preamble to the 1689 Act, and the language is kind of 1689, so my apologies, and I won't try and say it in an Edinburgh accent. The Scottish Parliament was denouncing their sovereign king because he had invaded the fundamental constitution of this kingdom, altered it from a legal limited monarchy to an arbitrary despotic power, and in public proclamation asserted an absolute power. As long ago as 1689, the Scottish Parliament, who at that time were not the most democratic or egalitarian bunch of people, they were already stating as a long-established fact that the king had to be answerable to the Parliament and thereby to the people. That the concept of an absolute monarchy was utterly alien. And it goes back further than that. It goes back to 1320, a document that many people will be familiar with, some parts of, to the detriment of others, a Declaration of Arbroath, usually recognised as a declaration of Scottish independence, but it's also a declaration of the sovereignty of the people. Because in describing how Robert the Bruce came to be King of Scots, not King of Scotland, but King of Scots, the Scots nobles at that time credited the accession of Robert the Bruce to the throne to divine providence, to succession to his right according to our laws and customs, and to the due consent and assent of us all. So even in 1320, even somebody who had contributed so greatly to the well-being of the nation as Robert the Bruce had no right to call himself King of Scots unless the Scots were prepared to accept it. There are parts, in fact, there's a lot of the 1689 Act whose anti-Catholic rhetoric would not be doing too well today, just as there are parts of Magna Carta whose anti-Semitism is perhaps better left in the 13th century. But these documents, long, long before there was talk of any of the political parties that are in existence just now, long, long before the kind of grievance politics that we've seen just now, these documents established a principle that could be held up as a beacon. As it has been for centuries in Scotland, it could be held up as an example as how to sort out the mess that the government has got England and to an extent Wales into, and it could, in fact, it is being held up as a beacon elsewhere. Because that declaration of 1320 became the framework on which the American Declaration of Independence and the American Constitution were founded. And I noticed that the Honourable Member from Edinburgh suggesting that Scotland independent would have no trade ties with England. I haven't checked the recent trade figures between Britain and its former colony across the Atlantic, but I don't think anyone would argue there's been no trade between Britain and the United States of America since independence. If we're talking about the claim of right for Scotland, it doesn't mean we're arguing about whether Scotland should or shouldn't be independent. It doesn't mean we're arguing about who should or shouldn't form the government of Scotland and what policies they should or shouldn't be implementing. We're arguing about something much, much more important than that. And I'm frankly appalled that there should be any argument about it at all. We are talking about the fact that in the nation of Scotland, the people of Scotland are sovereign. And there isn't any doubt in the hearts and minds of the people of Scotland as to who we mean by that. We mean those who have chosen to come and live among us. And that's why I'm enormously proud that my Polish constituents, my French constituents, my Slovakian constituents, my English constituents and my Scots-born constituents are regarded as democratically equal in every election and every electoral test that the Scottish Parliament has the right to legislate over. I think it was shocking that so many of them were not allowed to decide whether we were going to be taken out of the European Union. So please, when we're talking about the claim of right for Scotland, just for an hour or two, could we not have forgotten about this ingrained hatred of the SNP and everything we stand for? Disagree with what we want, that is a democratic right, but do not use that as an excuse to use up the absolute right of the people of Scotland to take decisions for ourselves. In the words of Hugh McDermott, yesterday we were challenged, incidentally, by one of the Tories in the European debate to have faith in our country. We have faith in our country. As McDermott said, we have faith in Scotland's hidden powers. The present's theirs, but the past and the future are ours.
Minister.